Okay, so yesterday we learned about tourism in Ireland and we looked at the 4 areas of tourism in Ireland. We had the areas of natural beauty, which was County Kerry. We had the areas of beaches and coastlines, which was County Clare. We had the areas of recreational and sporting facilities, which was Dublin in the east. And we also had cities, which was Dublin City. Okay, so we've looked at tourism in Ireland. I would definitely say no 2 out of the 4 regions in detail. Okay, 2 out of the 4. Now we're going to look at tourism in Europe, and that's actually it then for tertiary economic activity. So I told you it was a lovely thing. Okay, so tourism in Europe. So climate is definitely a big factor that makes some regions attractive over others for tourists. So like we definitely can't market Ireland as a climate resort, as a sun resort, a sun holiday, because we hardly get any sunshine. Spain would definitely be winning on that front. So climate, if you've got it, if you've got good sunshine, you definitely win more tourists. So for example, even snow in the Alps, it attracts in skiers and snowboarders in the winter, so that brings in a lot of tourists. Sunshine and the warmth of the Mediterranean countries like Spain and Portugal and France make them very popular with tourists all year round. So climate really does attract in tourists. So tourism is the world's largest industry today, and like I said yesterday, that's why they're really freaking out at the fact that how is the coronavirus lockdown going to really affect the tourism industry, because we really depend on it to create jobs. So I suppose what we're going to focus in on is tourism in the Mediterranean, and we're going to look at Spain, and we're going to look at the benefits and the disadvantages of tourism. So how it can benefit the region of Spain and how it can disadvantage them. So just keep that in mind. Going forward for the next few slides, we're going to look at how it benefits them and how it disadvantages them and why they're so popular. So I suppose millions of us from Northern Europe, from Ireland, the UK, Norway, Sweden, any of those regions, and Germany, we have been travelling down to the Mediterranean countries in Southern Europe since the 1950s. Now there's many reasons why we really started travelling down from the 1950s onwards. I suppose firstly we had a boom back in the 1950s, more people had more money, so more people could go on holidays. And then they started advertising Spain, so when we had our extra money, we thought let's go there. The travel industry at the time in the 1950s was kind of starting to provide cheap package holidays. You know, the package holidays where you get your flights, you get your accommodation, your taxi transfers, everything's included. You don't have to worry or think about anything. People loved it at the time. No organisation. Another thing that really kind of started tourism big time over to Spain back then was the planes. So they started bringing in bigger planes into Aer Lingus and Ryanair, such as the Boeing 707. And those planes could carry more tourists. So now that we can carry more tourists over to these countries, tourism increased, naturally enough. Fuel was cheap back then. So because fuel was cheap, and fuel is cheap at the moment, but unfortunately we can't travel. But when fuel is cheap, it's cheaper to buy your plane ticket. Okay? Mediterranean countries back then, such as Spain, Italy and Greece, were starting to set up their tourist resorts. Now when we go and visit them nowadays, they're all fully set up. They're all built, they have their pools, they're set up with years. But they really only started to set up the resorts back then. They got the idea that, let's build a few hotels in this area, let's put in a few swimming pools, let's put in a bit of transport, let's put in a few shops, a few restaurants. They were very clever setting up the resorts. So they knew that they needed to cater for a lot of tourists, because they knew that the tourists were starting to come from Northern and Central Europe. Back then as well, getting a tan became fashionable back in the 1950s. Before that, it wasn't really a priority. But after that, image was important and people just wanted to go on a sun holiday. The Mediterranean has become one of the largest, or if not the largest, tourist destinations in the world, purely because of its fine weather and its extensive coastline full of beaches. So I suppose what we're going to do now is we're going to zone into Spain. And what we need to know for any exam that I give you at the end of May or anything, or even going forward into 5th and 6th year geography, is how does tourism benefit Spain and how does it disadvantage them? So I suppose after the 1950s, because of more money, more planes, bigger planes, cheaper fuel, package holidays, tourist resorts were being set up, people wanted to go on holidays, Spain naturally started to get a load of tourists in. So its tourist industry developed really, really quickly. It's the second most important tourist destination in Europe. It gets over 65 million tourists every year. That's massive. I mean, you've probably been wondering, well, who's number one? Bien sûr, la France. So of course, France is number one top tourist destination. So like Spain is literally just second most popular in Europe. What has it got? It's got literally the country of Spain, but nearby as well in the Mediterranean regions, you've got the Balearic Islands, you've got the Canary Islands off the coast of Morocco. A load of Irish people love visiting the Canary Islands, like Tenerife, Gran Canaria, Fuerteventura. You're all familiar with them. So it's just literally, it's so easy to access the Mediterranean areas and the Canary Islands. You can see the Canary Islands better there on the map in front of you, just off the coast of Africa. So I suppose, what else, we know that we've got the planes bringing us in. What else has it got to offer? It's got sunshine, high temperatures for most of the year. Even in the winter time, they've got good winter sun. They've got the hotels, they've got the apartments close to the beaches where we want to be. It's all readily set up. Restaurants, discos, all along the beachfront. They've got the whole package there for us to attract the tourists in. They've got the resorts for the families. If you're 18, 19, they've got the resort for them as well. Almost every resort has a marina, so if you want to come in your boat, you're a millionaire, you're a celebrity, you've got your yacht, you've got your fancy boat, you can dock that in there in the harbour. So it really has loads to attract people in. Like I said earlier, the winter sun, you get fed up with the winter here in Ireland, so you can see why people want to go over to Spain. In fact, a load of Northern Europeans buy apartments and holiday homes in Spain because they travel over there in the winter months and they spend about 3 or 4 months over there just because it's warmer. Anyone with the likes of arthritis or anyone that just absolutely hates the cold weather, it benefits them to go over to the winter sun in Spain. Even in January, the Costa del Sol has an average of 6 hours of sunshine a day. We'd be lucky to see 2 or 3 of it ourselves. They offer, now it's not just a beach holiday, like all these resorts have gotten so clever in the last few years and they're starting to offer golfing holidays, Camino walks, all of them, cycling holidays even. They're trying to attract tourists as well to inland resorts, like look at Madrid there in the middle of Spain, like that's a beautiful city, but your problem is everyone wants to go to the outskirts, everyone wants to go to the coastline, to the beaches. You want to attract people inland, so they've really been trying to attract people into Madrid by saying, look at the beautiful architecture of the buildings. So like, I suppose you're either into that thing or you're not. Most, I suppose, would prefer the coastline. So let's look at the benefits of tourism to Spain's economy, and then we'll look at the disadvantages, okay? And I have a specific area if you want to know, if you want to be able to name a place in Spain, or if you just want to say Spain is a region I've studied, that's fine. So the obvious one is, let's think of the amount of jobs and employment it creates. Hotels, restaurants, golf clubs, tour guides, taxi drivers, shopping centres. There's so many jobs that it creates over in Spain. 1 in 8 Spanish workers work in the tourist industry. That's massive. Think of the amount of money that they earn. It also helps boost construction jobs, because think of the amount of new hotels and apartment blocks that are built every single year. So it creates jobs in the tourism industry. It creates jobs for construction. It creates jobs for farmers, because farmers grow the crops to feed the tourists. All the hotels and restaurants and markets need products to feed people. So farmers are able to supply those markets, salad crops, meats. Okay, that's fantastic that the farmers can provide that. So like they're doing well there. Airports are doing well. They've fabulous airports over there. So Spain are so lucky because of tourism. One way they've really benefited is they've built state-of-the-art airports, big airports, extended them, able to accommodate huge number of tourists passing through. Look at all the airports you see in the map there. They've a load of them. That creates a load of jobs. Local landowners are paid well for their property because they sell it to hotel developers. Like if I own land over there, of course I'd be selling it for a fortune as well to a hotel or a restaurant. So they're benefiting out of it by making a load of money. Okay, so there's a load of benefits to tourism there. I suppose other benefits would be that transport has really improved, because if you've got that many 65 million tourists coming in, your roads have to be really, really good. So road and rail has been improved. New motorways have been built. So that improves it for the locals as well. They've even built really good roads accommodating in people coming in from France and Switzerland. So that's really, really positive. Anything else there? So excellent road connections, excellent trains. High-speed trains even operating to get tourists around the country fast. Say they wanted to attract people into Madrid for a day trip, high-speed train will bring you in there. Right, I think we've mentioned most of that. We can reach the Canaries in less than 4 hours. Okay, so that'll tell you how important tourism is to those Mediterranean regions in the Canary Islands. They want to get us in fast. Air travel has become faster, more efficient, easier. and it's just creating loads of jobs and money. Okay. So I suppose if you wanted a specific example, you could mention Majorca, but as an island in the Mediterranean, or you can just refer to Spain, it doesn't matter. So how is it benefiting Majorca? Well, I suppose they've got the hot climate to attract people in. They've got the mild winter temperatures, attracting in retired Northern Europeans. They're offering golf resorts. They have all the hotels set up. They've all the apartment blocks. They have the swimming pools. They have the excellent airport facilities on the island of Majorca. They've got the nightlife, bars, restaurants, leisure centres. They've got restaurants. Cost of meals, hotels and drinks are low. It's cheap. It's cheap to go on holidays there, and that's what most people going on a holiday want. Okay? Now, you don't need to worry about Majorca. Just focus on what we looked at, the benefits of tourism to Spain. Just to finish up, what's the disadvantages? Getting 65 million tourists in, that's mass tourism. How is that impacting on Spain? Well, when you have a lot of numbers of people coming in, it does bring disadvantages. So, socially, how does it affect the people in society there? Well, Spanish culture is being swamped and hidden by the cultures of Northern Europe. So you're seeing Irish pubs, British restaurants. So most people go there and never even hear or speak a word of Spanish. Like, that's killing the Spanish culture, and that is a pity for the country. So DJs and clubs are bringing in English songs and music. Many Irish pubs are, flying up over in Spain. Many foreign fast food outlets are taking over in Spain, so like the Subway. Many tourists don't learn Spanish. Spanish tourist workers speak English and German and French, just to accommodate the rest of us. So it's a shame. We really are killing the Spanish culture. So mass tourism is drowning out the Spanish culture there. They're losing their Spanish identity. They're setting up these huge tourist resorts. Where is the old Spanish culture? Where is the landscape? Like, you're seeing literally like a concrete jungle in front of you of huge skyscraper hotels and buildings. That's not Spain. That's just a tourist resort. So you're losing your Spanish identity. The cost of land has risen. So if you're a local Spanish couple and you want to build or buy land, you're priced out of it. You're not able to afford it because the property developer will be able to afford to buy it over you. Because if I'm selling the land and you come to me as a young couple, and so does a property developer, he can offer me probably triple or quadruple of what you can offer me. So it's pushing local young people out. So places where they might have grown up and now they have to move away from their families. So that's kind of sad. Then you have the holidaymakers that behave badly, that get into drinks and drugs over there and do crime, break into buildings, graffiti, do damage to buildings, clog up the hospital system over there. We've all seen it on the TV, okay? Petty crime, drug taking, they've become a problem in some resorts. So these are all social problems. Getting rid of the Spanish culture, getting rid of the Spanish identity, creating crime, okay? Cost of land has risen. On the environment, it has to be taking its toll. So like the landscape, the coastline is covered in high-rise apartments and hotels. Like, it has to be taking its toll on the environment. Some resorts, like I said, have become concrete jungles. Agricultural land is being eaten up by these big hotel and resorts and holiday resorts. It's notoriously bad over there for hotels to be built without any planning permission. They're trying to crack down on it, but apparently there's just loads being built every year. And, that's eating into habitats, it's eating into farmland. How are they going to expect the farmers to produce crops and meat in future if they're building on all the farmland there? Pollution is a huge problem. They've 65 million tourists coming in plus their own population. They can't deal with the sewage. So imagine they're pumping the sewage out, which is literally your toilet waste, out into the Mediterranean Sea. That's the water that they're expecting the tourists to bathe in. So that's huge environmental problems. You've got noise pollution with all the tourists there. You've got air pollution, all the taxis, all the hotels, and there's serious pollution going on. Water is already scarce there because they get very little rain during summer. How are you supposed to supply water to all these tourists? Where do they get that from? Trying to get irrigated water to farmers, it's expensive, and then get more irrigated water to possibly pump it into hotels that are short of water. Tourists are hugely demanding on the water there, okay, and it is putting the Spanish authorities under huge pressure. So, going forward, how should they manage mass tourism? And it's funny I mentioned mass tourism. They're saying as a result of COVID-19, when we do go back to normal life, they're hoping that we don't go back to mass tourism. They're even saying in Venice, the locals, they really hope that they don't have this mass tourism back. Even the locals are sick of their towns being taken up by millions of tourists every year. So Lanzarote have kind of dealt with mass tourism in the following ways. So some of you might be familiar with Lanzarote, some of you might have visited it. So only low-rise buildings are allowed to be built. And if you're building a low-rise building there, such as a little apartment or a hotel, you must use the traditional designs. So they have to look like the old style buildings. So that's nice. It's keeping in with Spanish culture, and it looks traditionally like what Spain should look like or Lanzarote should look like. Advertising signs are forbidden on the road margins. They're gaudy, they're ugly looking, they take away from the natural beauty of the area. Discreet shop fronts do not use plastic or gaudy colours. You must fit in with the local area, okay? Gardens and parks use local plants and don't disturb the natural landscape. So they're really making sure that they plant lots of greenery, lots of shrubs, lots of plants and trees, being environmentally friendly basically, making it look natural. Planning laws are very strict. And they've huge public support from the 79,000 local people in Lanzarote. They don't want anything big being built. They want the place to look normal. So I hope that helps. So